Hello there, I'm Lady Loy, and as you know, I'm on Lovers Rock Radio on a Friday, 7 till 9, and on Gold Standard Radio every Saturday, 7 till 9. And I think this is going to be the last for now on the Black People's Development series. So I wanted, a lot of black people are saying they didn't inherit anything. And, they almost feel sorry for themselves. So I thought I would do this video. When people ask how we build now, given what we've actually inherited, I think the first thing we have to admit is that we didn't inherit nothing. We inherited a lot. Just not the things people usually point to when they talk about success. We inherited memory. We inherited instincts. We inherited creativity that knows how to move when the ground shifts. We inherited caution that learned the hard way what happens when you trust too quickly. We inherited humour that kept us alive when despair would have finished the job. We inherited adaptability so deep it looks like magic to people who never had to reinvent themselves just to breathe. And maybe that's why the question hurts the way it does, because it's not really about building, it's about whether what we carry counts. Whether the things that kept us alive can be turned into things that help us thrive. Whether survival disqualifies us from legacy. I don't think it does. I think building now starts with stopping the fantasy that we're supposed to erase ourselves and start afresh. That we're supposed to suddenly behave like people who grew up with safety nets, backup plans and permission to fail. We don't build by pretending we were not shaped by interruptions. We build by designing for it. We build things that don't collapse the first time money gets tight. We build systems that assume people are tired, cautious and carry more than they show. We build slowly. We build redundantly. We build together in small, practical ways that don't demand blind faith, because blind faith has cost us too much already. And everything we've carried, all of it, it doesn't need to be thrown away. It needs to be translated. The vigilance before foresight. The improvisation becomes innovation. The storytelling becomes branding, teaching, leadership. The way we read people becomes negotiation, conflict, resolution, management. None of that is accidental. None of it is wasted. It just hasn't always been valued in places where spreadsheets speak louder than stories. Sometimes I imagine what black economic life would look like if it hadn't been disrupted so violently, so deliberately, so repeatedly. And it never looks like one thing, it looks plural. It looks like land passed down and corner stores owned for generations. And regional trade networks and skilled trades respected. And it never looks like one thing, it looks plural. It looks like land passed down and corner stores owned for generations, and regional trade networks and skilled trades respected and protected, and institutions that don't disappear every time a generation passes. It looks like options, and that's the part we were denied most consistently. Not talent, not effort, but options. The ability to choose paths without punishment. The ability to fail without falling forever. When people compare our stories to Asian communities, I try to hold that comparison gently, because it's not about tearing anyone down, it's about telling the truth. Many Asian families arrived with intact cultures, intact families, intact languages, intact expectations about hierarchy, saving and obligation. Many were selected because they already had education or skills. They faced discrimination, yes, but not origin level erasure. They were pressured, but not systematically unmade. That difference matters, not to excuse anything, but to explain something. Because when you start from continuity, you can build continuity. When you start from rupture, you have to rebuild first. And that is why so many of our survival strategies get mistaken for character flaws. Because people look at behaviour without looking at the conditions that produced it. They see mistrust and don't see the history of betrayal. They see fragmentation and don't see decentralised survival. They see urgency and don't see generations where tomorrow was never promised. Adaptation always looks like dysfunction to people who never had to adapt. And sometimes we internalise that misunderstanding ourselves. We call ourselves broken for doing exactly what worked when nothing else did. We shame ourselves for not moving like people who were protected. We confuse difference with deficiency. And that might be the most dangerous disruption of all, because it turns our own voices against us. Support is hard in communities where loss is catastrophic. It's hard when people can't afford mistakes. It's hard when cooperation once brought punishment. It's hard when expectations are unspoken and disappointments feel personal. Lowering those barriers doesn't start with speeches about unity. It starts with making collaboration safer. Smaller stakes, clear roles, room for conflict repair, legal and financial protection, and don't rely on goodwill alone. Trust doesn't grow because you demand it. It grows because people survive working together and live to try again. And yes, there are things we can learn from Asian models without erasing ourselves. Pooling resources, thinking long term, teaching skills deliberately across generations, planning for continuity instead of crisis. But we don't have to import silence or shame or rigid hierarchy to do that. Our culture has always been expressive, relational, inventive. Any structure we borrow has to make room for that, not suppress it. Otherwise, we're just trading one kind of loss for another. I think the quiet truth underneath all of this is that we are trying to catch up. We're trying to resume, to pick up a story that was interrupted mid-sentence and find our way back into it without pretending the interruption didn't happen. And resumption is messy. It doesn't look clean, it doesn't look uniform, it doesn't move at the same speed for everyone, but it's real. We are still standing, that matters. It means something survived that was supposed to disappear. It means that there's still time to turn memory into map, survival into strategy, caution into care, not by copying someone else's path, but by finishing our own, honestly, patiently, and with our full selves intact. And maybe that's what building really is for us. Not proving we deserve to be there, not measuring ourselves against somebody else's timeline, but deciding together what we do next with everything we've carried, and refusing to call ourselves failures for the fact that we're still carrying it or that we're still carrying it at all. Let me just read that last bit. And refusing to call ourselves failures for the fact that we're still carrying it at all. In other words, we are survivors, and survivors means that regardless of what we've been through, we had the resources and the tools and the ability to continue. How many people can do that? And that's why there is surprise a lot of the time. How did you survive slavery? How did you survive victimization? How did you survive discrimination? How did you survive this? How did you survive that? So, I hope you found this, what's the word? Not necessarily enlightening, because you probably know it already, but it's just something else to build ourselves up with. We really must stop comparing ourselves to the Asian people. It's really getting boring seeing these videos about we must unite and look at the Asian, look at the Koreans, look at the Chinese, look at the Japanese, who've had a totally different history from what we've had and a totally different origin. So, unless you can compare like for like, don't do it, because it's demoralising and it's projection and it's not doing us any good. And I think that's all I'm going to say for now. You take care now. Bye-bye.